Okay, wow. It's a few more people that were there from in my last talk last year, where it was the end of the conference. So thanks so much everyone for coming. Talk is called Validating the Map in the Open. I gave a talk 7 years ago. It's a very different time. I was working at a different place. That was called Validating the Map. And this one's got it's kind of important 3 words at the end of it, in the open. So it's a little bit, the talk's going to be a little bit of a reprise. Look what's happened in the last 7 years, and a sort of look ahead at kind of, it's a bit of a fundamental issue with OpenStreetMap that I feel we don't talk enough about. We don't want to talk enough about because it's a bit scary to talk about. And also, if we talk about it, maybe bad things will happen. But, we kind of need to talk about it sometimes. So, who am I? I'm Sanjay Bhangar. I work with Development Seed for the past 5 years. I was with Mapbox before that. Been a part of OSM stuff for a long time, from when Mikhail and Skylar came to India, I think like 12 or 15 years ago, and got a bunch of us into this great project. Do a bunch of different things at Development Seed. We're a software consultancy, so work on a bunch of different projects. I'm also the system architect for the International Federation of the Red Cross Go data platform. Work on various things where OSM data is kind of central to a lot of what we do. But very importantly, I live in Goa near a very small town called Mapsa. Since I have the platform, if we change this conference name to State of the Map USA, I'd have much cooler t-shirts, because then I'd have a bunch of t-shirts that say State of Mapsa, which is usually nice. Okay, this was my talk from 7 years ago, yeah. And as I said, kind of, very different times, young and naive. And I think, the project as well, people were starting to talk about kind of the importance of validation, the importance of making sure bad things don't happen on the map. But, it was still an incredible, 13 years up to that point to have gotten from a blank map to where we were. And, very clearly, it's very hard to change focus from let's get everything mapped to let's make sure bad things don't get on the map. And the past couple of days, that's been really, fun with a lot of, with the Overture chat yesterday and things like, okay, OSM is going to, edits on OSM are going to make their way to, millions, billions of devices across the world. Is going to kind of impact lives. Bad things on the map are going to impact lives in bad ways. These have real world consequences. Brief, the next few slides, I guess, is a brief history of those past 7 years and what's happened since that last talk. And so in that last talk, we were introducing OSM Cha. We were talking about some of the stuff we were doing at Mapbox, talking about other great community projects that working on validating the map. I know I'm going to miss some of them in this talk, and I sort of apologize, and big shout out to everyone working in this space. It's a very hard space to work in, and appreciate everyone doing everything in this space. We were, working as one does in OSM, putting things out there, kind of asking for community involvement, getting people involved. And then 30th August, 2018, I don't know if this date means a lot to you folks, but it finally happened. A major metropolitan city in the United States was renamed to a racial slur. It made headlines, BBC got, headlines of major newspapers. This problem was real, and it had, terrible consequences. And this is something, open data projects have had to deal with. This will occasionally happen with Wikipedia, hey, look at this thing on Wikipedia, it's wrong, haha. But people mostly understand how Wikipedia works, and Wikipedia is also, it's a free service. People kind of understand how it works. Here you have large companies selling their maps, people paying good money for their maps, and if this kind of stuff shows up on the map, it's not okay. So, fear, panic. I was extremely, extremely, extremely happy at this moment to not be working with Mapbox anymore. It had been about 9 months since I'd left the company. I still had friends there. My heart went out to everyone, sort of in the war room, figuring out what had happened. But that fundamentally changed a lot of things, right? Like it became extremely clear, like this is not something we can take chances on for large companies whose customers depend on these maps. This is something that, regardless of what happens in this crazy OpenStreetMap world where we don't understand like the community and things, we got to make sure our maps for our customers never have something like this happen to them, right? This was it became non-negotiable at that point. And, kind of fair enough. Large companies started kind of doing their own thing. It became it made more sense to sort of work on their own systems and not kind of depend on the community because it was really a matter of like, it was something that could break companies, right? So we had, Apple, I think Apple released the Atlas platform to run a bunch of checks on OSM. And that I think different companies are doing their own thing, which is mostly a combination of like AI, manual review, fairy dust, that kind of ensures that the maps stay validated, gives confidence to customers that something like the incident would not happen again. And yeah, that's led to really interesting good things, right? There's the daylight distribution that Meta puts out that produces validated map of the world where take a snapshot of OSM, do intense quality control, do manual review, make sure everything that gets in sort of has passed quality control, and then distributes that for free. And that's great. But is that also how we want OSM data to be consumed through going through corporate pipelines that we actually don't have any visibility into what's going on, right? Like we'll never fully know sort of what those checks are, why something might not make it to the map, why something makes it to the map, etc. Makes total sense that this happened, but is this a sustainable future, right? If you look at the quality assurance page on the OSM wiki, so much has moved in 7 years, right? Like companies have invested probably like millions of dollars in making this happen. And if you look at the QA wiki on OSM, not that much has changed. We've got, these tools have improved, but we've got, the same tools. There's OSM Char, there's Map Roulette, great tools, but the scale of where things have moved is kind of, a lot more in the closed space than the open space, right? There's a lot of great tools out there, and I'll go over some of them. And the reason for this a little bit is once one gets into it, this is actually a really, really hard problem. It's a hard problem on Wikipedia, and there you're dealing with text. And text is a reasonably well understood NLP problem. We've had email spam filters for a long time. People are really good at detecting problems with text changes. With a map and with the OSM data schema, this is really, really hard. And you have to start with very, very fundamental problems. What is a change? What is a version? These things are not very clear. If you want to detect problems with changes and to versions, you need to know what a change is and what a version is. But, someone moves a node on a way, they can move a node on a way, and this happened once in Lisbon. A single node was moved to somewhere in Brazil, and that had fun impacts on various routing engines. But it doesn't increment the version of the way, right? And these are these are kind of really hard, fundamental, philosophical questions, and there's sort of there's no single approach. There's no magic bullet that solves for these. This is a slide that was supposed to have some examples of errors, but I've been looking for internet all morning. But essentially, there's a few different kinds of errors that are very distinct, right? There's people drawing graffiti on the map. This happens a lot. Someone gives you a drawing tool, you can draw on a map that kind of goes out. You draw something funny or weird. Detecting that is extremely different from detecting profanity and name changes, for example. That's extremely different from detecting weird tag combinations that are going to affect rendering on the map. So it's a hard problem. This is the Wikipedia. So Wikipedia has a machine learning interface called ORS that kind of real time, as changes are made, gives things a score of the likelihood of it being bad. And then you have a real time dashboard to kind of like see those changes and fix them, which my proposition is something that OSM needs, but it's a hard road to get there. Or how do we get there, right? Like, how do we build real time machine learning approaches to prioritize what people should edit, right? Like, there's been a major change to a monument, that should have priority. Someone should look at it. It should be fixed fast. What works for corporations in terms of like halting the map, doing quality control, and releasing a map 2 weeks later? Great. OSM it's a living map. We need to fix stuff as it happens. We can't do this kind of like, oh, we fix stuff a month down the line, right? How do we get there? It's not clear. We've worked on stuff like OSM compare, which the idea is you can just run functions on real-time changes. You get an old feature, new feature. You run functions. This is something hopefully we'll be able to open out. Sort of hoping for ideas. I think one proposal speaking to Jennings was that different companies that are doing internal validation pipelines, let's develop a common schema for folks to publish the validation errors, right? So let's develop a common format, GeoJSON format, some common keys, some common schema where everyone can publish their data. And that can be consumed by tools like MapRoulette, OSMCHA, other tools, machine learning tools to get a training data set to be able to then use past bad errors to predict future errors. What are the next 7 years going to look like? That's really going to be up to us, right? Like, does validation become more like a problem of corporations and something that happens internally in corporate kind of pipelines, or is this something that we can bring the community together to do in the open, to do together, right? Let's support existing community projects. There's no single magic bullet. There's no one that's going to come with the grand solution that's going to make sure nothing on the map ever, nothing bad on the map ever happens, right? MapRoulette and OSMCHA, now OSM US charter projects. That's great. That's amazing. Supported. I saw the presentation by Awesome yesterday, OHS, OME. They're doing some amazing work on building real-time pipelines. There's, I know the HOT team and with Tasking Manager are doing some amazing work, doing real-time data processing. Let's hang out. There's a BOF at 4 p.m. Where we'll talk about MapRoulette or validation stuff in general. If anyone's interested, please come. I'm on time. Thank you very much.